November 23 to 29 live war map, record elimination of Russian troops near Avdiivka, drones in Moscow. Despite the fact that the weather has significantly affected the fighting, significantly reducing activity along almost the entire front line, the occupiers are storming Avdiivka wave after wave. In addition, the enemy is conducting reconnaissance of our air defense systems and preparing for massive missile strikes in December. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Armed Forces continue to push the invaders back on the southern front. News from the Avdiivka front this week. It is becoming evident that, as a result of the extensive assaults on Avdiivka, the Ukrainian Armed Forces are on track to set a new record for enemy elimination in November, surpassing 25,000. This figure significantly exceeds the mobilization capabilities of the invaders, who are conducting 20 to 30 daily assaults on the city from various directions. However, the effectiveness of these intense assaults has been extremely low over the past week. The Ukrainian Armed Forces managed to stabilize the front both in southern and northern directions. Despite crossing the railroad for a considerable distance, the Russians were unable to advance to Stepov, where they were repelled by the Ukrainian defense forces. The invaders' offensives east of Novobakhmutivka and south of Novokalinov were equally unsuccessful. Russia's only, and therefore highly publicized, success was the advance of several hundred meters within the industrial buildings zone overlooking the Donetsk-Yasenuvata road junction. However, firstly, the fighting there is still ongoing and the zone has not been surrendered yet. And, secondly, there is a long lowland immediately behind it that will become a large burial ground for Russian assault brigades. Therefore, the Russian news narratives regarding the imminent surrender of Avdiivka are unfounded. The fighting for the city will continue for a long time. It is likely that December will witness an escalation in the intensity of the fighting, as there is a Christmas gift being prepared for Putin. Battle for Bakhmut map. To the south of the city, intense fighting persisted throughout the week around Klishchivka and Andrivka. The invaders have been trying to regain lost ground for 2 weeks. The Ukrainian Armed Forces are currently in a stalemate, but there are no signs of losing any positions. Map of the war with Russia, drone war in Kyiv and Moscow. Russian forces are intensively preparing for massive missile attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure. To do this, they are conducting reconnaissance with drones and simultaneously attacking Kyiv. On November 25, Kyiv was subjected to the largest drone attack in this war. Out of 75 drones, Ukrainian air defense shot down 74. However, the Russians started attacking the capital 2 days earlier. On November 23, after missiles hit critical infrastructure, the city partly plunged into darkness for a day. On the night of November 26, the Ukrainian Armed Forces launched 36 drones in response. Despite the Russian Armed Forces' claims that all targets were hit, explosions were recorded near Moscow at the Litkarino power plant and a substation in Lublin, as well as a transformer station in Moscow itself. In addition, drones hit targets at the Smolensk aviation plant, the Chelyabinsk tractor plant, which produced engines for tanks, and a plant in Tula that is still under construction. The Grad and Smerch MLRS systems are manufactured here. Ukrainian Armed Forces are striking Crimea. At the same time, drones paid a visit to Dzhankoy, where they burned down a Russian military unit that was full of ammunition. They also visited a military airfield near Novofedorivka and military facilities in Sevastopol. The detailed results of these raids are not yet known. Counteroffensive on the south, Tokmak direction. Although the counteroffensive seems to be over officially, the Ukrainian military continues to win back Ukrainian land from the occupiers. In the past week, the Ukrainian Armed Forces completely ousting Russian troops from the strategically important 140-meter-high hill that overlooks Verbovy. The retreating Russian forces withdrew to the village for defense. Ukrainian soldiers managed to recapture a number of positions between Robotyny and Kopany, thus further expanding the gap in the Russian defense towards Tokmak. Active hostilities map on the left bank of the Kherson region. The Russians' movement on the left bank of the Kherson region is exceptionally chaotic. Not least because the Ukrainian Armed Forces' accurate strikes have disrupted the controllability of their army. For example, recently Ukrainian missiles destroyed a command post of Special Forces units near Oleshki Sands. Russia has been attacking the village of Krinky from the north and from the south, but without results. They also tried to push the Ukrainian Armed Forces out of the solar substation north of Pidstep. Fighting continues near Oleshki and Pishchenivka. Nevertheless, Russian troops are trying to drive the Ukrainian defense forces out of the left bank, and therefore have deployed new units to the area, increasing the contingent to 68,000 soldiers. However, the most interesting fact is that the Russians are not bringing the new units to the front line, but are deploying them near the Crimean Isthmus, as if preparing for a deep defense.